2, 1. Hey everybody, this is Leslie Road with Marcus Braintrust, and today I'm joined by my good friend and partner Dan and our relatively newly acquired Michelle Chan Sang Thong, the hardest name in the world to say, but anyway, but she does great stuff for our clients, and so we like that. It's even worth having her, having to say her name every week on a hangout. So,
And I'm so
Dan. Dan has a prepared presentation today, and I don't remember what it was called. Something like cool tricks you can use to impress your e-commerce friends, or something like that.
It's about that internet thing. Couple of things I think we probably want to call out and mention from the news of the week.
Ooh, there was news.
Breaking news. Okay, so
well, there wasn't yet another Penguin update, was there?
I believe there's been one every 4 hours, according to Barry Schwartz. We're at Penguin 9.77A.
Something like that. I think that's right. Yeah, that's the last I checked, which was been a few hours ago.
So anyway, I variation. Anyway, so first of all, Facebook has rolled out the ability to add calls to action buttons on your Facebook page. That's a cool thing that you should check out. So you can have a button right there at the top along with the about and all that stuff that says sign up or free newsletter, stuff like that, and take people off to your website and have them do things there. This is something that a lot of people have wanted to see for a long time. And I think more evidence that Facebook's game isn't about trying to lock everybody into their walled garden and steal all of our content, but that they do want to have ways that people can engage in ways that people actually want to engage rather than be force-fed garbage by advertisers. So there's that. And not really exactly news, but yet to us maybe, but to a lot of retailers it is, and that is that some fun going on coming up in January with shipping rates for those of you that ship larger boxes rather than smaller packages. The dimensional weight calculations are all getting changed, and so you might want to look at making sure that you've got your shipping rates under control. Most people that ship boxes are well aware of this already, so I don't want to make too much of it. So, should we...
So on your first story though, Dan, so are we going on record saying that calls to action are a good idea? Did I pick up on that right?
Yes, Leslie, you should definitely test whether telling people how to do the thing they might want to do is possible, and offering them an opportunity to do it would be better than not doing so. But I think for most folks, if you don't have, if you're not completely crazy, you should be testing them at least and figuring out, what do people want to do, right? I mean, maybe it's, just if you think about if you had maybe people are coming to your Facebook page and, banging out comments for customer support questions. Is my shipment there? How about a button that says check on my shipment, for example, that could then take people to your website where they can actually get an answer to that rather than posting random crazy stuff on your Facebook page.
That's a great idea. All right.
So, and we might want to test random crazy stuff later in the future.
Yeah. Okay. Good. All right. So now you have a prepared presentation deck. So we're gonna jump into the Hall of Mirrors here in a moment and do that.
Yes, it's a very tiny presentation deck. It is not a big one at all. So. Let's go ahead and push this thing. Wait, no, that won't work. I have to do it in the other order. It's so confusing to remember what I'm doing.
Yes, it's
screen share.
You need to remember what you're doing too.
So, share my desktop. Start screen share. Dun dun dun. I am screen sharing. Stop. Okay, now to PowerPoint. And let me know when you can see that.
Yep, sure can. Wow, that happened way easier and faster than the last 7 times we tried. Maybe we're actually getting good at this.
No, I think we're just getting lucky today. So, I wanted to start off with some quick shopping ad notes. And again, this is largely going to pertain to retailers today, in terms of what we're here to help you with. And I want to show you an exercise and a tool that you want to be using in Google Analytics to help you sell more stuff. But I wanted to really quickly hit on a couple of notes because we've got some folks that have been going through some training with us, and obviously some clients that we're working with on shopping ads in Google. And here's what shopping ads really boil down to. It's still a search ad, and people are still typing in search terms. And here's one of those old familiar favorite search result pages: wedding favors. I don't currently have a horse in this race, and so I don't feel terrible about showing this search result and picking it apart and talking about stuff about the people that are on it, because, well, nobody paying me to run their stuff is on it. And so
hint, hint, those of you selling wedding favors, just saying, going on.
Yes, I'm just saying, if you want to do battle with Favor Warehouse, you might want to get some professional help. You may notice here that two of these listings are not like the others, and those are both from the same company, Favor Warehouse. And some interesting things just to call out about this search result page. Now, these guys are running shopping ads, and they're also running search ads. So they've got their search ads, and they've got their advertiser rating on there, which means that they're participating in a couple of Google programs that you're allowed to participate in. You don't actually have to use the Google Trusted Shopping or Google Trusted Stores program to get this this little rainbow checkmark thing on your listing. I'm sorry, you do need to participate in Google Trusted Stores to do that, but you don't need to participate in that to actually be able to run a review extension. There are a number of folks that we know that can help you with getting seller reviews, including the good people at Shopper Approved, who are not sponsoring this show, but it is the solution that we recommend, and we have actually worked with them as clients and business partners before. So take that for whatever it's worth, but it doesn't cost as much as other review solutions, and the thing is designed is they'll help you get more reviews, which is the whole point of the thing. So anyway, you can get the review stars on your ads with review extensions through a number of partners. If you want to do a search for AdWords review extensions, Google has a list of the partners that are on there, and of course Shopper Approved is on that list. But also the thing that you'll notice that is absolutely killing it for the folks that we're working with who are running it is the special offers that are actually part of Google's Merchant Promotions program, which is another program that is worth signing up for. Now, the Trusted Source thing, they do expect you to have a certain amount of volume of transactions in order to qualify for that program, but the criteria are not necessarily the same for the Merchant Promotions program, and you would definitely rather that your ads featured both the Google checkmark approval and a special offer rather than not. The other thing I wanted to call out here is something that's changed a little bit from back in the early days of PLAs, which really goes back to when it was frugal and the shopping search was free for everybody, and that is for the longest time, images with a lighter, transparent background were much more likely to be favored. But it looks like Google is letting click-through rate kind of decide for us now, and so you're seeing more advertisers start to come in with images that have a little bit more color to them, and they just kind of pop off the page. An actual a couple of cool tricks that you can pull with this, and one of them is that you don't necessarily have to show the entire product. So you can see here that they've kind of zoomed in and highlighted, in both cases, zoomed in and highlighted kind of the sexier part of the packaging and stuff like that. Another thing that you can do that I haven't seen anybody doing too much is actually take the image size that you've got and go just a little bit smaller and do a little bit of a drop shadow effect around the right and bottom edges, and that and use a line up there to give you to give your images a little bit of pop off the page on the search results. But that and the fact that they are targeting low-price lead products on the search result, and I've seen these guys move around, and it's pretty clear that they are actually targeting by search result, which they tell you in Google that you can't target keywords, but you actually can do it. You just have to do it the other way around by managing negative matches, and for long-tail stuff by managing what's in the product description. But I digress. Those are a couple of programs that are well worth looking into for online retailers. You don't have to be a retail giant to be in Google Trusted Stores, but you do actually you have to have some volume of transactions because reviews are a part of it. Then I actually put a short link together here for something better than Google's page about the merchant promos program, which is the folks at WordStream actually wrote up a blog post explaining how the merchant promos program works, and it has the links to sign up. And so that's where I'd recommend that you start so that you can understand what the program is about. You can go to seobt.co/merchant promos. That's not seobt.com, it's seobt.co/merchant promos. And if you were wondering, should I register a .co for my short domain? Maybe not, unless you also have the .com, and that one works too with the exact same stuff, which would be some tax stuff to deal with setting up.
And we do not have the .com. We don't own it, as I recall.
So Corey tells me that we've won the auction for squirbler.ly, so you can look forward to that being our new URL shortener at some day in the future when we pivot to become a Web 2.0 startup.
And so now, Dan, how much of the trusted seller program is really about reviews? I mean, do you have to be? Is it like primarily about having reviews, or is there something else?
You have to have a certain volume of transactions. You got to do some stuff to actually prove that you're you and stuff like that. It's not just a hey, we want to, right? It's not like something that they turn on for all advertisers. So there are some hoops to jump through. I haven't actually been through all the hoops myself. We do know a few folks that have gone through it. Okay. And so it's something that mortals can do. In fact, some friends of ours that puzzlingly, oh, there we go. Yes, they are on the search result page. You know the folks in out there in Norcross at My Wedding Favors. So, and you know about how big that part of their operation is. And so, it's not you don't have to be an Amazon-sized seller to participate in this thing. Either one, if you can get in, will help you a lot. If I could. Cause things to happen just by wishing for them, I'd wish for membership in the Merchant Promos program before I'd wish for membership in Google Trusted Stores. The other thing I wanted to mention here is that for those that have seen maybe the performance of your search ads not do as well, it does tend to do pretty well when you're over here next to your own shopping ads. You get higher click-through, your costs go down, and you're getting people who may have seen a couple of cool products, but it wasn't quite the stuff that they wanted actually end up as they read from left to right, clicking on your search ad. And so good job to whoever is running the show over at Favor Warehouse in AdWords. And for the rest of you, give me a call. Okay. So, and again, Shopper Approved is one that we recommend not just for seller reviews but also for product reviews, and it's something that you can get started with at a fairly low cost relative to the competition, and the cost doesn't balloon like it does. And some of these things like BizRate and others are just I don't even know how they continue to have clients because the pricing is just it's based on how the web was 10 years ago, and it's not like that anymore. There are alternatives out there, and Google's got I think a dozen partners for the review extensions in the Trusted Reviews program. So, all right, let's pivot, Leslie, to talking about using analytics to make more money and sell more stuff.
Well, that seems like a great idea.
So there's a Google Chrome extension that you can get, which for those of you that have tried to use in-page analytics in any of its iterations over the years, you're familiar with what happens when you try and use it in analytics. Almost every time the thing spins for like a half hour and then tells you that it won't work unless you open it in full screen. Why they even pretend that it would ever work, I don't know. I haven't seen it work in so long. Anyway, the solution to that, though, is to use Chrome and to use the Google Page Analytics extension, which you can get for free from Google just by Googling Google Page Analytics extension for Chrome, and well, it'll pop up and you can install it in your browser, and you'll get a little thingy in your browser like this. And so when you click that, it turns it on, and when it's on, it says that it's on with a little word that says on that appears right here in white and red. There's some gotchas to using this thing, Leslie, and I'm sure you're familiar with some of these gotchas because they've gotten you, as we've been trying to figure out Hangouts, that Chrome really it's good at letting you log into a whole bunch of different things. There's a whole bunch of different people and stuff like that, and you've got multi-tabo, Fox, and all these other extensions, right? But then when you actually try and use certain Google things that really do need you to only have one session with Google in one service and not get confused. This is one of them. And so what you want to do to use it is you have to actually log out of all your Google accounts. So you can't be logged into Gmail and AdWords and YouTube and all that other stuff with all your different IDs and stuff like that. In fact, it may be easier to just restart the browser so that you're not logged into anything. And that all the cookies get flushed from the session, all that kind of stuff. But from a clean browser, certainly, log into Google Analytics, and then you can surf to your site or any pages that you actually have access to in your analytics view. So any page that you can see the analytics for, the page analytics extension will sort that out, and you can just click to turn it on if it's not already turned on, and you can see page analytics. Now, I'd love to show you a live example of what this looks like on one of my clients' accounts, but unfortunately, I don't have any clients that are that stupid. So what we've done instead is shown you a very, very blurry image of something that's very, very blurry and doesn't actually represent current data, so you couldn't make any use of it anyway. But what you want to do in that page analytics extension, it'll put a little thing over the top of the page with stats for the page, and then you can click to show color and to show bubbles. And what by default will do is will show you the number of clicks on all of the links or items on the page. And what we like to do with this here, and this is an example of looking at what the new retail people call a product listing page, but back in the day we just called a category page on an e-commerce store. And so you've got a list of products with images, and what you'd like to know is when people go to that category or that page or however they navigate there, well, gosh, wouldn't you like to know that the products that are there are actually the ones that people want and like to click? And in this particular example, the one at the top left, which is getting the most prominent position, the most expensive piece of real estate, if you will, on this category page, hasn't actually gotten any clicks in the last 2 months. And so what we might want to do is favor some of these items that are farther down that are showing with orange or red over them. So this one down here, I might want to bump all the way up there. This isn't something you're going to get right or get perfect, but by looking at the category pages and the search result pages on your site that are getting the most traffic, the most visitors to them, you can use this data to re-merchandise and take the products that have gotten clicks and move them up the page, and what doesn't get clicks moves down. So it's sort of like a ladder tournament for which product is going to be the click-through champion on that page. What that's going to do, when you do that activity consistently, we've seen this over the course of a few months yield an 8, 10, 12, 15% improvement in overall conversion rate, because what it does is it gets more people to look at more of your products, which means that more people add more of your products to the cart, which means that more of them hit the checkout button, and ultimately more orders get completed. And so that's a really, really simple thing that anybody can do in analytics without even doing any actual math. You can just use the color code to tell you that green, the stuff with no color on it needs to move down. The stuff that's green can stay down. Blue and orange and red, you can move the red stuff up to the top of the page. And over time, you're going to want to do this on a regular basis, because as stuff bubbles up, other stuff bubbles down. You'll start to see different products come in. The best way, the absolute best way to make use of this data is to try to avoid paginating your product listing pages if you can, and try to show essentially as many as you can get on the page. And really, if you've got more than 100 products or something like that, you may need to also think about things like faceted navigation and other ways that can help people narrow that kind of stuff down. And by the way, if you do have faceted navigation and stuff like that, and I couldn't think of any good way to show you this, but these guys actually have a faceted navigation system, and it's interesting to look at this data on how people use the faceted navigation, because amazingly, some of the stuff that is way, way, way down the list of choices that you can make actually gets more clicks than stuff that's at the top. So type of product or color of product or size of product your customers, by the way that they interact with that menu, will let you know which things should be higher up to help people get to the products that they want to find most quickly. And sometimes, by the way, that might vary by category. So if you're looking at a one-size-fits-all approach to faceted navigation, that can be costing you a lot of money. So where if you can't adjust the order of your faceted navigation by category or by other criteria.
Which, by the way, would be a very rare treat to be able to do that. Typically, those things are pretty coded, hard-coded to the way the theme is put together, but at least the ones I've seen. But,
yeah, and it all depends on. I mean, really, what you want is something that's not a plug-in, but something that just like with site search, you'd like to, in a lot of cases, actually have a third-party API that you're going and getting that choice from. But there are things that you can control, and there are things that you can't control. But even looking at multiple category pages and looking at what people are clicking on, you'll find in a lot of cases that you've got stuff that's pretty important to users that you didn't think was all that important in the hierarchy, that maybe you in fact want to move up the chain. And just like with the products, when you move it up, it's likely to get more clicks, and so you might move it up even farther now that it's getting better positioned and is starting to get a chance to compete with the top products. And the same thing with the menu items or anything else on your site. I mean, really, I wrote an article about this, I guess about 4 or 5 years ago, about essentially treating the stuff that's on your page, the links and things like that, in your navigation menus, the same way that Google treats the ads in AdWords. That is, what gets a higher click-through rate it is going to tend to move up. What produces more revenue through clicks, which is also something that you can see through in-page analytics. If you look at a long enough time frame and you have enough transactions in there, you can actually see which links are generating more transactions and more dollars than others, and so that can help you decide what menu items to move around. But this is a deep rabbit hole that I didn't want to try and take everybody all the way down into, because well, it's a deep rabbit hole, and I thought maybe we'd have some questions and we could have some conversation about this particular matter rather than beating it to death for an entire hour.
Well, yeah, we don't actually have any questions yet, although I wonder if people understand sufficiently what's meant by faceted navigation. I mean, we try to get our e-commerce clients and some notable others as well to do that sort of complex navigation whenever they can, because generally speaking, I mean, there's probably a counterexample out there somewhere, but generally speaking, it's going to increase engagement and
it's the way that you refine searches on Amazon. So if I search for laptop computer on Amazon, they'll take me to a page that is the laptop computer search, but then they'll have menu items down the left side that I can select price ranges. I can select brand names, which ones are Prime eligible, so that I can get that Prime shipping and stuff like that. And the same kind of thing that as you get to having larger and larger catalogs, that kind of navigation becomes a more important part of helping people actually find products, because the goal, the goal of your homepage is to get people looking at product listings, right? Looking at lists of products or pages full of products or doing searches for products. The goal of those pages is to get people to actually look at the product detail page, and the goal there is to get them to add it to the cart and check out. And so each of these things has its own mission and role, but particularly when you have search-driven or data-driven category pages, you need that faceted navigation to help your users narrow down the choice of products.
Indeed, yeah. And in fact, another good example would be some place like Home Depot that's got once you get into a particular category of tool or home electronic or whatever, then you'll have like price ranges, and you'll have manufacturer, brand, things like that over on the left-hand side, and that's what we're talking about with faceted navigation. And it's an alternative or an adjunct to having site search. Site search, I think everybody recognizes that site search is a good thing if you have a large catalog. Amazon.
One of the things people really need to think about is how effective is their site search. You can actually instrument your analytics so that you get data on your site search on what are the most popular search queries, and figure out which ones are actually leading to more or less revenue. And when you find search results that aren't leading to high conversion, you might discover that when you do that search, you say, "Oh, that's weird. I searched for baby shoes, but all they're showing me is fishing waders for some reason." If you use the built-in search on a lot of these shopping carts, you end up with something that is a pretty poor result. We've seen, in fact, sites that have literally tripled the revenue per search by switching to third-party search add-ons. In that case, it was LSI Learning Search, which is still available, although maybe a little bit pricey for some of the folks that are watching this. But you can do the math when you figure out how many people are searching and how much money people that search spent. If you can improve that by 50% or double it, then it's worth. What would that be, and how much would that mean in terms of additional profit? And if you're talking about hundreds or thousands of dollars a month in added profit by upgrading your site search, it's worth looking at what you could do to do that.
Indeed. So what is this next slide talking about here?
Well, Leslie, sometimes I find that when I explain how to do something that's going to make people more money, they're still not quite motivated to do it. And so, but what I've also learned with internet marketers is that we always want, we like an angle. So if you think, like, what if you could actually get this data on your competition? What if you could go and look at Amazon's listing of products that are similar to yours and see which ones are getting the most clicks? And well, you can actually do, because when you sort by relevance, that's basically what they're giving you. But so right, they're doing that work for you. Little tip for you there. But what if you could get this data on all of your competitors? I mean, wouldn't you like go nuts to get that, especially your biggest competitor, be able to see? Well, you can't. But you actually can do more with your own data anyway, because your own data is going to map more closely to what's going to happen for people that come from the streams of traffic that you're getting. And so, folks, if you've been running search ads to product listing pages, to category pages, and you're not quite at break even, or you're barely at break even, doing this kind of remerchandising might be the only thing that you need to do to tip you over the line, but it's certainly going to improve the performance. But this will improve the performance whether the traffic comes from Google AdWords, or whether the traffic comes from organic search, or whether the traffic comes from Facebook. You're doing the universal traffic engine stuff with us, or wherever the traffic comes from. You can improve the performance by doing this kind of merchandising. And what you're really doing here is just giving people more of what they want and less of what they didn't want.
Yes, and I think we're on record as saying that's a good idea too.
Yeah, so I mean, if you got this for your biggest competitor, you'd be all over changing the order of the products in your store. So don't let the fact that your store might not have quite that much data steer you away from at least making an effort to do what you can with this. I mean, look, 2 clicks is more statistically significant than 0, right? 1 is arguably not, but 2 is definitely more. Shut up, Leslie. I'm talking about sigmas here. This is
yeah, that's right.
You understand 100 times better than I do. But even making small adjustments, just if it got a click, move it up 1 spot. Okay, give it a little reward, and if that means that something that hasn't gotten a click yet gets bumped down, oh well. But you could do worse than just to reorder your category listings by which product page is getting the most views as a starting point, and then start by remerchandising from this. So whatever product pages are getting the most views already, those are the ones that you'd put up at the top in that order, and then let it sort itself out by the way that people actually interact with your site. So,
and literally, I mean, the advantage of doing some of this is that right now, if you're kind of a fourth quarter heavy retailer like many of the folks are, you're getting more clicks now, you're getting more traffic now in order to make good decisions with, and this kind of a change is one of those things that has almost an instantaneous payoff. You can literally go into analytics today and be making more money tomorrow. So
yeah, you could literally do this. I mean, I know people that do an hour a week of this. I mean, you could do a lot in a fairly short amount of time.
Yep, indeed.
And start seeing the benefits right away. So we wanted to share something with you that you could actually use and do something with as we get to the last few shopping days before Christmas.
Yeah, something like 8, as I recall, something like that, or 9. Yeah. Great, cool, awesome. Do you have any more tricks for us, Dan?
Well, just a pro tip on shopping for Christmas.
Okay.
Go after Christmas.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Has less lines.
That's true. Tell the
Give
kids
it
that
about
actually
3 days after Christmas to let people do their refunds and throw fits in the stores and stuff like that. Then go ahead and just waltz on in and have your own Christmas right then and there. So
you have to kind of somehow lie to the kids and keep them incommunicado for
look,
3 days.
okay, here's the thing. So if you've got little kids, what do they don't go to, they probably don't go out, they're not going to school, so there's no, they don't even know what day of the week it is, right? So
That's
all
true.
you do is just you control the calendar. You put the big calendar on the wall and you just start counting at a different day. They won't know the difference.
Right. Okay. So boys
Imagine
and girls,
the time you'll save by lying. I mean, you're already lying to them about Santa Claus. I mean, let's not go to ethics here, Leslie. All right. So, do we have any questions?
We do not actually have questions. We have,
Fantastic.
three dozen viewers here, but I think everybody is just waiting on your August pronouncements. Too scared maybe to ask a question. I'm not sure.
Well, I'm going to stop making August pronouncements and because it's December, so these will be now all December
announcements. Yeah, brilliant. Okay, I walked into that one, didn't I? So
I did.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, we obviously have a few minutes left. I mean, it was a short show today. But
so let's talk about other things that people could do to sell more stuff.
Okay.
Like email.
Email's good.
You could send email and offer people something in that email and maybe give them a reason why they should do that right away. And that would maybe lead to more sales.
That would probably lead to more sales. And of course, if you're going to send email, make sure that you put tracking codes on your email links so that you know whether it's actually getting a good return for you or not. Now, oftentimes we see people forget to do the whole tracking thing, don't we?
Sometimes we
Michelle,
try and
you
do the tracking thing, right? And our URL shortener breaks it and stuff. But
well, yeah, you got to be careful.
Only happened that one time.
Yeah, that's right. And I really should fix that shortener one of these days. But yeah, anyway.
Well, and there's two. Remember, guys, there's also Facebook offers, and so you can put offers on your Facebook page if you're doing any last-minute free shipping. And what's really nice about the offers, if you haven't looked at them lately, it used to be that you could only do a Facebook offer if you were like a local store, and so you get an email that you could take into the store. But now you can give a Facebook offer, and there's a URL that you can attach. When they click offer, it sends them to whatever that URL is for your site. Wonder how you might.
So just anybody can do that now.
If you have a page on Facebook, every page I've worked with so far. So I'm at about 15 or 20 different pages I've looked at, and so I've yet to run across one where I couldn't do an offer with a link to a website.
Yeah, that's right. Michelle is ruthless. When she figures out an advantage, she'll just go through and sweep through and look for all of the, anybody that left that port open. She will
say, hey, port scan, right?
I bring my katana and I slice through it.
Well, the other thing is we were talking about, how many shopping days are at Christmas. I don't know how many messages I got today from vendors that I've used, so obviously I'm on their list, right? And the usual refrain is, order in the next 3 days and you'll have it by the 25th. And so for those of you who are doing
Viagra for the price of one,
yeah, stuff like that. Tim asked, why use Chrome for analytics? Where are the ads shown in order in analytics? Well, no. He was saying it's like no. Okay, see, I understand. So the reason for using Chrome is use the Chrome extension. The Chrome extension for in-page analytics is what Dan was referring to there.
Right.
Now, in terms of it's not the ads shown in order. He was saying that order your own links as if you were running the ads, running AdWords. Right. The way AdWords runs is that anything that performs better gets bubbled up, so it performs even better still. Well, treat your own navigation, treat your own products, just like you were running AdWords, right? So where would you rather have your best performing product? The top of the page or the bottom of the page? Well, obviously the top of the page, right? Obviously, but you got to go test and find out. And that's what Dan was showing with that ransom note, was that anything that's not getting clicks, well, take it out of the the hero spot, move something that's getting clicks up, because guess what? If it's in the middle, lower third, halfway down the page and it's getting clicks, wow, think how many clicks it's going to get when it's at the top of the page.
Yeah, it's amazing. Most of the time when people do this for the first time, they'll actually see 1 in 3, 1 in 4, something like that of their category pages. That product at the top left is the worst clicker on out of that top group of 4 or 8, and sometimes it's 3 or 6 or whatever. But you'll a lot of the time you'll see that the thing that you had nailed up there at the top, maybe you did it because you had really good margins on it, or because it had the biggest price, or give people what they want to look at, because that's how you get people to buy stuff. Yeah. If a product is so poor in margins or whatever that you don't want to include it in your catalog, then
maybe you should just not include it in the catalog. Yeah, that would be a solution, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
I had an interesting, just a weird from a data standpoint. I had a company I was working with who said you can't rearrange the order of these because this is our best-selling item. And so a little more research revealed that it's the best-selling item, but it was like in the 9th row on the page. The reason it was the best-selling item is because in AdWords it was the only product that showed up in shopping.
Yeah, it was the only one that they were sending traffic directly to the product page for?
Yes.
Yeah.
But on regular just traffic on the page, it was not a top-clicked item.
Yeah, and that's the thing. You can do you can set segments in Google Analytics so that you can break out so that you're only looking at AdWords, or you're looking at traffic that didn't come from AdWords, and so you can separate that out and look at those things. And when you have enough volume from multiple channels, it's actually worth looking at, kind of comparing. Is there a big difference between them? Because you might actually want, if there's a big difference, you might actually want an AdWords variation of that category page that has a different sort order than what you have for people that navigated there from the home page.
Cool.
Also, just doing this exercise and starting to think about which of my category pages are getting the most views can lead you to places where you go, okay, my navigation is really messed up because this most important category page people aren't finding, and that's the other thing that you can kind of learn from just starting to spend time in analytics and looking at not just what happens on the page, but how people flow between the pages. Maybe we can do a session one of these days on following navigation paths in analytics. That's something that you used to have to pay a lot of money for with ClickTracks or whatever to be able to see.
Yeah, and there's a couple of questions we got here, but before we leave that topic, the thing about either following navigation or looking at what categories are getting how much traffic. We had a client for about a year, actually, we worked with him, and in that particular case, he had basically 5 categories of 5 major categories of products on his website, and we found that 2 of those really just didn't belong. It was almost like the IQ test, which one of these doesn't belong. And through a little bit of experimenting, we found out that he could just take those off. If he wanted to continue to sell those things, he could put them in a different store. So, but that's one of again, you wouldn't necessarily know that unless you dug into the numbers a little bit, and that's the reason to go do that. Let's see, I guess I should probably turn Dan out of present all the time mode, which I don't remember exactly how to do, unfortunately.
I didn't know that I was in present all the time mode because I'm looking at you.
Now you're
really? To everyone. Haha.
Stop presenting? Oh, okay. Well, I thought I wasn't seeing it switch back and forth, so I thought we were in that mode. Aside from Amazon, as Bruce asked, aside from Amazon, are there specific examples of e-commerce sites that you can share with us that utilize all these conversion elements you were alluding to? Well, some of our clients were helping with it, but of course Dan didn't show you that. And I know that there are some others that I run across. Frankly, you'd have to. Some of these things you'd have to watch to make the changes. You'd have to watch versions of the pages evolve to notice that they're doing them. But I would be surprised if some of the larger big box retailers, people like Lowe's, Home Depot, and those kind of guys are not doing some of this. But I don't think, Dan, we haven't been authorized to show any of the websites where we've been working with clients on this kind of a thing, as I recall.
Honestly, I couldn't advise a client that it would be a good idea to let us. So,
and you will see some of the bigger folks.
One of those conundrums. It is what it is. We'd love to show you lots of examples that are more specific. But I don't want to give up sensitive competitive information. I don't know how we avoid that when we're talking about marketing strategy and advertising. So.
Well, and we do see some of that. We circulated something around recently within chat internally because of a client that we're working with. It's kind of a similar, don't need to go into why it's similar, but and that one was an online vendor of lingerie, and the owner of that company disclosed some of their split testing data, which is frankly extraordinary that he disclosed it, down to like the hair color. What was the most important thing? Like, okay, turns out it's the poses you thought were the best weren't. Turns out the hair color you thought was the best wasn't. They were split testing every single new item they put up on the site every month. They split test multiple models in different poses. And so they found out that in fact it's the model is the single most important factor in lingerie sales. Okay, great. So there's things like that where you do find disclose. If you follow folks the way we do, you'll find that there are some big companies that are disclosing some pretty cool stuff that you can put to use right away. We ought to really, we've been talking about putting together a little webzine about that.
Yeah, actually, Leslie, we have to get together and talk about the results of our first experiment along those lines. But I was very impressed by what we got. So. Yeah.
Oh, good. All right. Well, that teasing everybody about
yes,
what we're going to have happen
that's
next.
Something that we should be able to execute on fairly soon.
Excellent. Richard asked, would you suggest running split tests on the ordering of product based in the data? Well, I think And so, on that example you showed, Dan, would you split test that? Would you run an A/B on that product page, or that's actually a lot more difficult to do than just reordering the product.
No, and Amazon barely has enough to make a split test make sense. They're operating based on data that's being collected on an ongoing basis. They have more data than I do about how much confidence should I have in a click from 3 months ago versus a click that happened today. How should I weigh those? Amazon's been working on that kind of optimization, but for most of us, we're dealing with small enough volume that it's really just a matter of increasing the odds of making a sale, not making a 95% statistical confident decision that this product belongs above that one. It's that this one is more likely to do better up, and that one's more likely to not be as much damage down.
Yeah, that's true. And yeah, as you mentioned it, so because the variation in the two tests is probably so small, it was going to take a long time to converge.
Yeah.
Well,
how much data you have. You talked about that, and you hammered that in a lot last week. It only takes 8,000 views to know this with 90% confidence, whatever the number was. But it was a much bigger number than even I kind of perceived to get true confidence in making that decision.
Yeah.
Yeah, no doubt that's true.
We're seeing category or product listing pages for people with monthly volumes in anywhere from hundreds of sessions to thousands or maybe tens of thousands of sessions to a category page. Really high volume stores might see a top category get 100,000 sessions in a month, but that's pretty rare. And so you're really dealing with, for most retailers, there just isn't enough data to be treating this like it's a hyper-disciplined split test. The thing is, it's bubbling up and down, so it's like a bubble sort. It'll find a level, and so if something moved down one spot, last week because it wasn't doing so well, now it gets 2 clicks, so it's going to move back up. So it's not something you really need to treat like a split test. It's really more a matter of these are the current click rankings of my products.
Right.
It's a ladder tournament. In a ladder tournament, like if you'd have ever been part of a ping pong or tennis club, Leslie, the ladder tournament. Well, you're probably in ladder tournaments where that taekwondo where you just go hit people and stuff, but most of the time when you walk in, the person at the top of the ladder is the one that is most likely to beat the hell out of you, and the person at the bottom of the ladder is more sort of variable in terms of quality. You don't know. They might be somebody that just got there too, and then they beat the hell out of you, and they go up the ladder while you nourish your wounds.
Mm-hmm. It's happened. Phil asks a question. This is thank you, Phil, for this in-depth question.
Thank you for the Drupal question, Phil.
Yeah, exactly. Let's see. In a site search, I'm seeing URLs indexed as the base CMS-generated URL, such as node / and a number. Preferred URL is based upon the title, something such as some title. There's a canonical, and he has a canonical set on the page so that in search, search is going to pick up his preferred form of the URL.
But analytics won't understand it all.
Exactly, that's the thing, and I guess the other thing is.
But on the other hand, you'll still see which link they clicked on in your in-page analytics report.
You better use a shorter meta tag or get rid of it. Well, I'm not sure what the shortener meta tag is, frankly. There's also a shortener meta tag to the node 3, 4, 5, 5. Presumably that is the cost. Like, do I care about this indexing? I'm not sure. I mean, so what's going to show up on the site? I mean, I assume if the person's browsing the site, they're seeing that non-canonical. They're seeing the /node/ whatever, right? And certainly, if that's what the links are saying, and
that's what analytics will be measuring.
That's what analytics is going to show.
Yeah,
I mean, analytics
doesn't cause a redirect or anything like that.
Nope, it does not. So. Let's see. Chris asks if we'll send out a replay. Oh, absolutely, because of the magic of Hangouts on Air. About 37.5 seconds after I hit stop.
The tricky bit, Leslie, might be combining the data. Right, if I have two different URLs showing up in analytics for that, and some of them came from internal, and some of them came from search engines or whatever. It might be a little bit of fun and games there to try and. Combine the data, but at least ultimately you're looking at the same sort order in both cases because the page is going to be displayed the same no matter what the URL is.
Yeah, that's true. But is in-page analytics going to know to combine?
No, it won't.
It won't.
No.
You see, it's so filled.
The canonical thing.
It's a mess, right? Because you'll get if you have from, that's not good. Those are.
In general, if I see a /node in your URL, I think that there's some kind of fail going on. But, it's just bad attitude.
That's just bad attitude toward technology in general and Drupal in particular.
Why /node? Why not not anything? Everything has node after it. Why do you need it to say node all the time? It's like the www. Why do I need that if it always has it?
Yeah, that's because it's poorly designed spec. Let's see. What are there any specific comments that you can share with us that lead the way in your opinion in their utilization of the conversion elements you've just been referring to? Which that's I think Bruce kind of asked the question in two different ways. So first of all, Amazon does the whole bunch right. You just start with that one. I mean, if you want to talk about who should you look up to in terms of in terms of skill in online merchandising.
You do have to be cautious, though, looking at Amazon because you don't have the kind of data engine behind it to make, right? So, Amazon always has this strip of related products there, and that might not be the best thing for you because your strip of related products might not convert better than the product that they're looking at, like it does for Amazon.
Right. And now there's one of our ex-clients, runs a Western wear product store. They do a pretty good job of a lot of things, including related products even. So if you look around, first of all, it doesn't take that much to figure out what's good. It's you just act like a shopper. When you're shopping this Christmas season, which I do online almost exclusively. Notice what works well for you. Notice that, hey, that was actually a really good idea. I'm going to take a snapshot of it. I'm going to make a clipping file. If you don't have a swipe folder built out of just by saving HTML pages or click them to Evernote or whatever, you should have. As a merchandiser online, you really do need to have a clipping file that shows best practices. I video them sometimes. When I see a checkout process I particularly like, I'll either do multiple screen caps and store those together, or I'll actually video the entire process and narrate as I go. Those have become very useful working with clients as well, as where I'm showing somebody why I don't like guest checkout, for example. Well, let's go through the process and see how ugly that is for a person who actually is a returning user and can't remember their email
address. You're pretty
address.
quick with the browser and the mouse and all that kind of stuff, and you can show them how much time it adds for you, right? It took me 45 seconds to get over that hurdle. Imagine what that does to normal humans and how many of them don't want to continue at that point.
And you'd be surprised how many of these things are. We just helped one of our clients sells high-end dog beds. For those of you in the community, who I'm talking about, and we helped him move to an Infusionsoft checkout page. And there were a couple of things about that checkout page that were just like completely stupid, just flat out stupid. One of which was there's 2 shipping options on radio buttons right here in the middle of the page, and neither was pre-selected. All right, so you can see what's going to happen, right? You fill out the form and you hit submit. Of course, the fact it was named submit is really also stupid. Nobody wants to submit, right? And so, and sure enough, and then there's an error pop up.
But never mind.
Wait for it. So big error pop up that says select a shipping option, and then you have to look around the page to find this tiny little ass set of buttons here. Okay, that's a fail, miserable fail. And in calling the company, they said, no, you can't fix that. It's like, no, those are fighting words. Yeah, we fixed it. We fixed it fine with JavaScript on the page. Anything can be done if you have JavaScript on the page. And so don't take no. That's, two things here. Just because they're a leader in the field doesn't mean that they know what the hell they're doing. And the second is that don't take no for an answer, right? If you need something fixed, find a way to fix it. This is just technology. It's not that bad, and it's not that hard. But you'd be surprised, things like that, when you go look around, like every single major shopping cart, it seems like somebody got fixated on this back in the day, and they have the 3 options. They have new user, new customer, returning customer, and checkout as guest. Worst possible first experience I could imagine for a shopping cart. The other thing is the multiple round turns to the server. Page. Again, horrible deal. You want to get down to the simplest, most elegant, fastest checkout page possible. And usually that's a 1-page checkout, by the way. And some other shortcuts, like you can figure out whether a new or returning, generally speaking. And if you can't, you give them a simple way to get through that. There's, the whole checkout as a guest is a trap, and so don't let people sell you down that road either.
And Leslie, I don't know if we've talked about this ever, or you guys talk with clients about this, but one of the things that we've told a client to do in the past is bring somebody into your office, put them who've never used your website before, put them in front of the computer, give them a credit card, and tell them to buy something on your website. You can delete the order, but just watch and shut up. Don't help them, say nothing, stand back, put duct tape over your mouth if you have to, put your hands in your pockets, and watch what happens to somebody who's never been to your website before and see them actually check out.
Yeah, in fact, way back in the day, a few years ago, at this little place we used to work at, we even had an eye tracking machine and ran these experiments in the evening of trying to use usability testing on websites. And the most amazing things, you find out when you try to do that. Find out all the things that you took for granted that turned out to be completely wrong.
Right.
So yeah, testing, and that's the reason in-page analytics is just enormously cool. That's the reason we like using the stuff in analytics directly. And Dan was just showing. We also like Crazy Egg, and there are a couple others in the category for looking at in-page behavior. You have to have quite a bit of traffic to throw at it in order to really get make a hell of a lot of progress there. But I think just looking around and noticing people doing stuff well. That's the thing, is I every online vendor I go to, I'm noticing not just, oh good, I'm going to get my stuff soon. I'm noticing what their shopping experience is, and see if I can find learn something from it. And as a store owner, if you're not doing that yourself and building a clipping file, you are just messing up big time. Have a clipping file. Wendy, oh hi Wendy. We always use Amazon as an example. They've taught us all how to shop online, and that's true. Although Amazon has something that most of us can't have, and they have a particularly verdant following, right? So Amazon is optimized for the returning user. They're optimized for the person like me who's never logged out of Amazon, right? And so bear in mind that. Button? Yeah, right, exactly. There's a lockup. How do you do that? And so you want to be a little bit careful about that. If you're more like, well, let's say like, my wedding favors or something, right? Where we used to joke about that in the day. What's the follow-on sale for wedding favors? Divorce services? I don't know what. Why are they going to come back to your site? 3 to 7 years. They'll be back. For the next marriage, I guess. And so. Should it be designed, should a wedding favor site be designed for the same kind of interaction as Amazon? No, absolutely not. You're not going to expect the high level of repeat use of a wedding favor site by the same individual. For a short period of time, yes, they're going to do a whole bunch of research with mom, and then they get it all done, and they're off to the honeymoon or whatever. And so, but with Amazon, that's optimized for the person that's using it basically almost like their homepage. So like when I look for a book, I don't look for it in Google, I look for it in Amazon. So depending upon the kind of story you have and the kind of population you're serving, you're going to replicate that kind of focus on that kind of demographic or not actually. So yeah, vitamin company, someone who is selling vitamins online. Again, the customer you want looks a lot like an Amazon customer, someone who shows up repeatedly. So.
Hey, Leslie, I have something fun for you.
Okay.
I think it's fun. So I just discovered this app that I'm sure everybody else knew about, but it's called Time Hop, and it goes back to your social profile and shows you things. So on this day 3 years ago, I was talking about you.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And I said, and this is a quote, so now you get to tell us if you would still believe this quote. My guess is it's true, but it says, don't read into the concept that the customer is actually interested in your page even when they get there. They are listening to the voices in their head.
Yes, true. I remember when you quoted that. In fact, yes, they are definitely listening to the voices in their head. and hopefully our page in some way resonates with what they're saying to themselves so that they stick around.
Right.
Right. If you'd answer the voices in their head and say, yes, it's going to be okay. We'll get revenge on our enemies one day.
Yes. And they bounce when you try to start a different conversation when they're not interested in. Yeah, that's exactly right. That's really cool. Yeah. We try to have, so Wendy is expanding on her private, we try to have product recommendations above the fold, but because Amazon has taught us to scroll down to find more info. Well, that's an interesting thing about that. In fact, we just did a new website design for a medical practitioner in Las Vegas, and he had just had one done like 2 years ago, but boy, it was terrible. And so we talked him into having another one done by us this time. And he pointed out the difference in the conversations I had with him as opposed to the designer in the first time. And, admittedly, I don't consider myself a designer. I know Dan will have heyday with that. And so what the designer said was, well, what do you want? And he says, I don't know. You tell me, And so whereas the way we approach it is, what has to happen on this page? What assumption have we made about the voices in their head when they hit this page, and what do we want to have happen next? And so there should be a flow to the page. The elements on the page should guide them to wherever we want them to go. And so, for example, we see a lot of this where, at the very top of the page, I'll have Visa and MasterCard logos. You know what? I'm not interested in marrying you right now. I'm just dating. In fact, I haven't even decided if we wanted to date. And so why do I give a crap about whether or not you take Visa and MasterCard? I'm not there in the conversation.
We tested putting the credit card logos on my skirt. It actually didn't work as well as
on your forehead. Anyway, so there's certain things we want to have happen right there at the top of the page, and then as the person moves through the page, right, we'll have answered part of their questions. We'll have developed the rapport, the conversation a little bit. So, like Dan talks about the example he did with SEO Research Labs way back in the days, where he had 4 boxes to rapidly allow visitors to the homepage to self-select who they were so they could get to the right page.
So they can enter the right part of the conversation, because that's the thing, that your website, right? I mean, if somebody walked up to you and said, wedding favors, okay, so
and now what?
Who's getting married? There might be a series of different questions, but there'd be different paths that conversation is going to take with different people. And if your website is designed to get people in, figure out what part of the conversation they want to have with you and have that effectively, your website's going to do a lot better than if you've just got it categorized and alphabetized by the Dewey Decimal System from A to Z.
Yeah, and so in that what you present there as a scenario, Dan, we like it's the elevator speech, right? So the very first thing is I need to have a tagline or some other USP that says why I'm different than the other guy. And so whatever the conversation is when they hit your homepage, right, you want to reinforce the ones that you want to keep and repel the ones you want to have leave. And so if you're the lowest cost provider, then say lowest cost. If you're the highest quality, say highest quality. for example, and that's obviously being just really blunt about it. But so as you guide the person in further and further into the page and further into the site, the conversation naturally changes. And so think about page design from that perspective as, given the kind of people who are going to show up, how do I get them sorted out into buckets so they get to the right place? And so to Wendy's point is that our reviews, when do reviews become important? Now, a lot of times the way I shop for a book on Amazon, right, I will look at the title of the book, I'll look briefly at the description, I'll go all the way to the bottom and look at the bar graph, and then I'll go back up. True, but that's not the way I always shop for a book. It depends, right? And so,
but half the time you know what book you wanted and you're just trying to buy it.
Exactly.
Amazon, right? Amazon gets more people that go to Amazon and use that as their search engine for the product, or they go type the name of the product plus Amazon into Google to get to Amazon's product page for that product, and they're going to go in as long as Amazon didn't screw up and get the one that doesn't have Prime on it ranked, which they screw that up all the time.
Yep,
they should just canonical to the Prime one if they've got one, but whatever. I'm not trying to give Amazon advice because they don't want it from us, do they?
No,
but,
I imagine, but yeah.
But you just you can't just model what Amazon is doing, because their world is so much different than yours is in so many different ways.
But I think
a lot of the conventions about people expect to see the price near the buy button. That's something Amazon knew to test because science says, and then science actually happens to prove out in that case as being pretty accurate. Andy Edmonds told us how to design a product page based on fovea eye.
The phobias. Yeah, major and minor
surprise. Thing that made my monitor blurry, but however you come about it, there are certain things that are going to kind of just be best practices all over the place.
And that's the thing, and that's where you can learn from Amazon. So once you understand the difference between, Amazon's the type of customers they serve, their demographic, and their high level of returning use versus your own. Some things you're going to have to leave on the table. Some things you're going to say, no, I can't do that because I have a different customer base. But some things are a given. For example, if I'm, two different product page designs, and I'm doing a site redesign for as a matter of fact, a bookseller in Australia. And so, well, guess what? He has a product page the existing product page where the picture is on the right and the information is on the left. Well, Amazon's, it's the reverse. Of course, I'm waving my hands this way on screen, and it's reverse for you. But anyway, so Amazon has, as you scan from left to right across the page, it's got its big splashy picture, and maybe even some videos if it's one of those, and then it has the prices and some amount of description and star ratings, and then the buy button. I don't know of a single example where that hasn't tested as the winner. Reversing it, you see people do. You see people put the picture all the way over on the right instead of on the left. That's one of those things where you can really accept that Amazon's best practice is best practice. Where reviews have to go on the page, that's a different question, but you notice even in Amazon's case, they have a way to get to the reviews easily. There's a link or a set of stars or something on every action.
Right up at the top there.
Yeah, and so, and again, I would argue that you need to get all the basics covered first as a person is scanning through it, right? They want to see the product itself, the ability to buy, and then they want to see the canonical description before then they get to the question of social proof. What has other people said about the product? And so I think that they really do have that laid out in the correct order, even though you do have to scroll quite a ways to get to it. Let's see.
Is there a thought now, Leslie, on image size? Bigger is just better with particularly with the high speed that we have now, as big as you can get and still get all the data on the fold. What thoughts?
I think it's about utilizing screen real estate, right? And so the challenge there is it's really, yes, you want the images to be attractive, I think, right?
Right.
And I can't quote any third-party data on this, but clearly people like good design aesthetics. Challenge, I think, is not about the size of the image per se, or whether or not you should be able to expand the image or zoom on it, certainly, particularly for a physical product. For a book, I think who cares exactly what the title looks like, the cover looks like. But for physical products, you should be able to have multiple views of it and stuff like that. But more important than that is how you use the above the fold. I think that that's way more important than anything else. And again, going back to the old days of working with Andy at Stompernet, there's really, really good data about the psychological cost function that's going on in the human brain to decide whether or not to move the mouse, to go back to the keyboard, to actually scroll. All of those things, there are these little tiny programs running, deep in the base of the brain that causes us to decide whether to bounce or not. So what I want to make sure is I have a suitably sized image, suitable meaning what do I have to do to get the person to scroll, right? If I could fit everything I needed above the fold, I would not have a scroll bar. That would be a win. You could probably almost never have that.
Right.
Two things people screw up with images all the time, though, is one, not optimizing the image for size. Whether it's JPEG or PNG, you can go to medium quality and lose most of the file size and most of the download weight of the image without losing any noticeable quality of any kind. The other thing I see all the time is people have kind of the older non-responsive fixed width almost layouts, and that left and right column that made sense because there's stuff in them at the top, then seeing them continue just as blank space all the way down the page when you could be making the reviews wider, having a bigger comparison chart, so many things that you could do better with the page as people scroll down. And you see Amazon doing obviously a pretty effective job of maximizing the use of the screen space regardless of the screen size.
Yeah, and that's the other thing is right. I mean, our monitors are all wider than they are tall. And so the new design that goes full bleed to the edges is way better from just a utilization perspective. We can get a lot more data above the fold without having to scroll. It's just it's so much better performing in terms of what we want to have the user experience. Well, this isn't a question, but it's self-serving to read it anyway. This has been fantastic. I always am impressed whenever you guys are presenting. I'm so sorry I missed the first 20 minutes. Well, that's okay, Wendy. That's what Hangouts are for. It's on YouTube about 30 seconds after we're done. Marcel asked the question, hey guys, and I assume you meant gal too. You are talking about existing biz. Is your stuff also applicable for affiliate or CPA marketing? Well, it's really about human interaction with a website. So yeah. I mean, I think it's even probably more applicable in many respects to affiliate or CPA because you control so much less of the business, right? I mean, you really have only your landing pages and the on-site interaction, and then when the person goes to buy, they're gone, and you lose control over the like the shopping cart itself, for example, or something like that.
Yeah, affiliates definitely have to optimize more than, if the retailer isn't getting, doesn't have better margins than the affiliate, something's broken.
Well, that's true. Yeah, for sure, that's true. But we've had people in the past ask, affiliate marketers, actually in one case a network marketer, wanted us to help, optimize their business, and I had to tell them that it probably wasn't going to be cost effective for the past 4 figures a month to do that because they had control over so little of the total value chain, right? So I mean, if you're running a big manufacturing business, I can help you optimize that factory, right? If you're just doing the front end, the marketing piece, yeah, I can, we can help you there too, and Dan can work your AdWords, and Michelle can get gobs of Facebook traffic that's highly targeted, et cetera, et cetera. That's all good. The more of that chain, the more of that total value chain that you control, the more things we have to work with to go optimize. And for most customers, clients, first thing we want to do is we want to go attack the shopping cart. Because in most cases, it's one of those places that people have just simply ignored. They're too scared. They don't understand the numbers well enough. They have very little control over some of these shopping carts. And so, we want to go there first. Now, to Marcel's point, yes, what can you optimize more? Well, that depends, right? See, here's the thing. The more of the value chain that you have available, there are more options for us. And so, I have my druthers about where I would start, but again, we always check first. All right. So what have you done on your cart? Oh, okay, great. Well, you've done a lot on it. Well, so maybe we need to look somewhere else. Maybe we really need to just do traffic development, whatever. It's just that with an affiliate.
For an affiliate, it's a lot of it depends on how much you can measure too. I mean, if I can measure, if I can instrument every single link on the page and have an ad tracking code down the end that I can roll all that up into reasonably good reports that I can optimize based on how much money I make from each link. That's much better than optimizing based on click-through rate. But it only works if you do it.
And are you getting round turn? Are you getting total total buying path numbers from your vendor? That's the other thing. So when the visitor leaves your affiliate site and goes and completes a purchase, do you get a pixel back that says that can tie that conversion back into your site? Because otherwise, all you can really optimize for is, well, it's the equivalent of add to cart, right? I know that this many people came onto my site and went to the vendor site, but I don't know if they bought, right? And so
yeah, and we've got affiliates that we're running AdWords for right now, where we have a conversion tracking pixel that the affiliate manager loads up on the other end for us when we make a sale, and so we can actually track that as a conversion in AdWords, and we're good,
Yep. On a Teespring campaign. So Dan, okay, that's a concrete question, all right? So what would you do on a Teespring campaign?
So that's all. I mean, that's all going on in Facebook, and I honestly, I haven't gotten that far down into the weeds on the T-shirt guys on what kind of tracking we can get in Teespring. But what I'd want to know about Teespring is what kind of analytics can I get back on the traffic that I'm generating about what's happening, how people are interacting, so I can tell the difference between how this ad performed and that ad performed. It's one thing to know, this ad made more sales than that ad did. That would be good to know. Can I know that? But it'd also be good to know, how much time people were spending on the page, how many, did they go into one of the product option menus, and when you start to go onto a third-party platform like Teespring, you're, generally speaking, losing a bunch of that.
Yep, indeed. Yeah, and so, the first rule is you can't control what you haven't measured and tracked, and so that's the beginning point of the analysis, right? I mean, as an affiliate, you typically two things are you control a lot less of the value chain, and you typically don't measure nearly as much in the value chain as you'd like to, and so that does hamper your ability to make optimizations in the business. It is what it is. Now, on the other hand, it's a much simpler business too, and so do we recommend that people start out that way if it's the very first thing they're doing online? Hell yes. Don't overcomplicate it. Don't try to set up your first shopping cart and manufacture a product in Hong Kong.
Yeah, let's just figure out the marketing without worrying about the whole logistics of the business and fulfilling orders and all of that stuff. And the same kind of stuff that you do in T-shirt marketing is the kind of stuff that we talk about and do in Universal Traffic Engine. I mean, when Michelle's working with clients, we're trying to target small, very tightly focused groups of individuals based on certain qualifying criteria to reach with messages, and not trying to I like to post these things up on my Facebook as like, these guys targeted me because I'm male between 20 and 70. That's not targeting.
Yeah.
That's even worse targeting than the recruiters for the Army for drafting people.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Well, we've gone a little bit over time at this point, but so we've pretty much run out of questions. There's some very good questions there, guys. Finally, once they kind of let loose and started asking questions, it came pouring in. So good. Thanks everybody for following along. Any closing comments, Dan, Michelle?
I do.
Okay. What's your closing comment?
Just a fun fact, since we're talking about Amazon some.
Mm-hmm.
Last holiday season, they were selling 426 items per second.
So 426 individual transactions?
It says items, so I didn't read the whole story because, I just grabbed the headline. So it said items per second, which works out to 1.5 million items per hour. So I'd say they have some data to work with.
Yeah. Yeah, that's and that was their completed transaction. So if we kind of back into what we imagine their conversion rate is, yeah, that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, exactly. That's the number sold. And even if their conversion rate was 50% or 20% or 5%,
5 would be huge, right, Dan? So more likely 3.
I bet it's more than that.
What do you think, Dan? What do you think it is? Just out of curiosity, out of your gut there.
I think it's probably a little bit north of 5%. You got so many people that go to Amazon with the intent of, as soon as I get there, I'm going to mash that send it to me now button. I mean, almost everything I get on Amazon, I look at one page, it's the one I want, I push go. I don't go to Amazon very often that I don't buy something. Do you, Leslie?
Well, actually, I use Amazon in a very different way, and so I have got multiple wish lists, and I also have things in my cart.
Yeah.
And I have things in my cart saved for later. So really, that's almost another wish list, right? It's just a special wish list, and so I'll go hunt. Gosh, I mean, I'm almost using it like a.
It's a research tool, isn't it, for analytics?
Well, it's a research tool, right? Okay, for example, so I bought a rangefinder recently, okay, and before buying that rangefinder, I had I think 5 of them, I think was right, in my wish list, because I'd found them and I needed to bookmark them basically to come back to, and so I use it as a research tool. So I don't know. That would actually drive down the aggregate visitor conversion number, right? But
speaking of rangefinders, I just did a search on Google, and if anybody knows or has a way to get into Dick's Sporting Goods, let them know that there's a couple of things they could do to vastly improve their conversions. And the good folks at Cabela are at least halfway there, but still, for consultants, the opportunities are out there. There are giant companies that suck at this stuff.
They make up for it in volume.
Well, to some extent, that's true.
Yeah, they make up for it by not actually caring about the performance of individual ads, but that just means that's why we beat them.
Exactly. Cool.
Richard has a late-breaking question here. One slipped in on one under the wire here before we get off. But presumably, most e-commerce platforms would automatically move most popular items to the top of the page. Well, I don't think they probably automatically do it.
No.
Yeah, I think that's probably a manual process. So,
there's a feature wish.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So, gang, I think we're probably ready to wrap up here, and let's call it a day. So next week we have a special episode of our Hangouts on Air. Special for 2 reasons. One is it's our last one of the year. We're not going to do one, between the holidays. There's limits to this. As fun as it is, we're not going to do that. And so that one will be the last one of 2014. And the other thing, we have a special announcement. We're going to go through and describe kind of the things we've been doing in content marketing. And for those of you who are clients, you'll find a special gift in that hangout for you next week. And for those of you who have been considering it or whatever, it might push you over the edge. Who knows? Anyway, we're going to be describing some kind of clever things we're adding to the service we do, and anybody can do it. Or you could actually have us do it for you, of course. A little plug there. But so that next week is going to be all about content marketing and how we go about doing it. And so you're not going to want to miss that. Just saying.
All of our secrets about how to make it go.
Exactly right. Anyway,
we can't tell you all of our secrets, but if you show up next week, we'll tell you all of our secrets.
Exactly. Indeed. All right. Thanks, everybody, for watching, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye now.